everybody, it's Slasher Dude 2000 and Cameron, and tonight we will be doing Scream 3 of 2000, my birth year. And this is the Slasher Club. Cameron will start us off with the synopsis.
Yes, as you mentioned, this is the third film in the franchise, and once again we're following Sidney Prescott and the surviving members of Woodsboro, namely Dwight and Gail Weathers. But interestingly enough, the film begins with them all in different locations, and essentially a new killer emerges. But this time, it's not in a hometown or at a college, but on the set of Stab 2, which is the fictional or the semi-biographical movie that's based off of the events of Scream. So this, is essentially a continuation of the previous two films. And, there's really not much to say about the synopsis until we go into other details, but that's essentially the synopsis. One unfortunate thing is that Sidney Prescott really isn't that much in the beginning of the film. She doesn't meet up with the rest of the group until about almost the halfway mark, which, whereas in the first two films, we are with her from the beginning. So,
hidden fact about that. It's because Neve Campbell agreed that she could only be on for 20 days of filming, not including the retakes, because she was in other movies during that time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so since we got the synopsis, me and Minnie Scream, my fellow killer here, we'll be doing the facts. It was directed by Wes Craven. It was produced by Kathy Conrad, Kevin Williamson, and Marie Madeline. It was written by Aaron Kruger. Music by Marco Beltram for the third film in the series, and supposedly the final film set, which turned out to be false. Film locations: Canfield, Moreno Complex, 923 Mitchell Terena Streets, Silver Lake, Los Angeles. This is Ronan's mansion, if you guys know that, and it was seen also in Halloween H2O, and another movie that Marco Beltram did music for. You know, I'm gonna take this off because it's hot right now. It's summer out here, and I'm gonna continue. Next is Goldstone Road, Topanga, California, which is Sydney's house. Radford Studio Center, Inc. in Los Angeles, California, is Woodsboro Studios. 1336 North Harper Avenue, West Hollywood, Los Angeles, is Khan's apartment, which sadly is currently occupied, so you can't go visit it. Neve Campbell is back as Sidney Prescott for the third movie. David Arquette is back as Dwight Riley, or Dewey. Courtney Cox is back as Gail Weathers. Patrick Dempsey plays Detective Mark Kincaid, which I'm pretty sure a lot of us have remembered him from other movies and TV shows. Liv Schreiber comes back as Con Weary for the last time. Kelly Rutherford is Christine Hamilton, his girlfriend. Okay, this was a bad idea wearing glasses and a mask. I'm fogging up. Scott Foley is Roman Bridger. Jenny McCarthy is Sarah Darling. And we're going to get on to the kill stats.
Yeah, they're a little underwhelming this time around. You know, we went from an expanded sequel in Scream 2 where things were bigger and bolder and bloodier, and things kind of are smaller in this film and a little bit less creative, unfortunately. There are 9 total deaths. 5 of them are stabbings, 1 death by explosion, 1 death by fall, 1 death by throat slit, and lastly, 1 headshot. There are approximately 14 stabs, and there are 3 menacing phone calls. And yeah, as you can tell, and once again, there is 1 staged or faked death, which is a callback to the first film. But as you can see, yes, these stats are not as impressive as even the previous, even the first film, actually. So they scaled this one back. The creativity on the kills, unfortunately, are very low quality. Yeah, that's what I got to say about the slasher stats. Back to you.
Wow, this movie was very underwhelming. But at least we got at least 1 favorite kill, like every movie. Mine was honestly Tom Princey, who surprisingly forgot his stunt double for this scene. I'm gonna be telling bad studio jokes for the rest of the night.
Hold on, so which was it, the explosion or which?
That was the explosion.
Which was your? Yeah, okay, all right, that was your favorite kill.
Yep.
Mine was Roman's death because they tried to be sentimental, you know, like he's bleeding out, and I'll get into this in a second. You know, we're starting to get to the conclusion of Sidney Prescott's journey as a hero, and so it's like really like tugging at your heartstrings that she has reunited with her estranged brother. I mean, she never knew she had a brother, and then the next thing that happens is he comes back to death, comes back, pops up, and Dwight shoots him like 5 or 6 times, and he's all like, "You can't stop me!" And then it finally had to shoot him in the head. It was such a comedic way to end the killer, like far more comedic than even the TV on Stu's head or anything that happened in Scream 2. It was actually a little bit out of place.
And it was
just so over the top.
Funny on how you mentioned Stu's death, which we will get back in the trivia later. But
yeah.
Lee's favorite kill, Steven Stone. He basically dies by frying pan. I mean, yeah, you watch him get stabbed, he gets hit over the frying pan a few times, and then just to bury the knife in, you gotta hit the knife with the frying pan. I mean, it was a little too Looney Tunes for me.
Well, yeah, the kills just were very, like, PG-13, you know, there was, like, for instance, just let's go back to part 2 really quickly. You know, Randy was stabbed, 7 to 10 times? Like, it was, even though we don't see the stabs, I mean, we see the motioning, but we don't see it actually being plunged. There's still that image of the stab motions, whereas here, like the opening scene, I only remember Kristen being stabbed once, and I think Con was stabbed maybe 2 or 3 times. Like, there was just, a lower there was less brutality in the kills.
Except you gotta remember, Khan was also hit over the head with a golf club.
Yeah.
But onto a funnier, lighter note. Funniest kill, Tyson's death. He gets stabbed, the rug is pulled out from under him, his neck is broken, he's thrown into a glass case, and then to end it all, he gets thrown off the balcony, and we see his body later on when Dewey comes out.
Yeah, what's weird? It's been a while since I've seen this film prior to us watching it for review, and I could have sworn that he survived at the end. But I don't know if I saw a different version or I'm just misremembering. But I could have sworn he he survived the fall at the end. But yeah,
right. On to the, I guess, supposedly important facts. This was supposed to be the final movie, as we all know. They brought Randy back because a lot of people were actually really mad that he died so early in the series. Yeah, he survived one, and then they just cut him off in the second movie. Real early.
Well, if you remember from our review of it last week, one of my faults for the film, in my opinion, was that they shouldn't have. Yeah, they should not have killed Randy off. If anything, they should have saved it for the third act, or not do it at all. But I'll let you continue. Sorry, that just an aside. Yeah, that.
Right, and actually,
I mentioned that in the.
There was one draft where they were going to make it sound like Randy's still alive. His family is protecting him in letting him get over his injuries, but they completely canned that and turned it into this video diary.
Yeah. Did you have more facts, or because?
Way more. I couldn't just leave this movie with so little facts. I mean, we gotta fill up this 30 minutes somehow. I love the analysis of trilogies that Randy used. I mean, yeah, we've got all these bad trilogies, except for, and not only speaking of Godfather, Star Wars, there's Terminator 3, I believe. I actually haven't seen that movie. And
oh yeah, no, Terminator 3 is bad.
There's one more. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. What?
Oh, I was going to say Lord of the Rings.
I guess. I mean, I haven't seen the whole movie series. I've seen the first and I've seen the second one.
Yeah.
Oh, God, there's one more, and I believe they mentioned it in the movie. Oh! Nightmare on Elm Street. The third was the best. Now, if they'd ended it there, it would have stayed a great movie series, minus the second movie.
Absolutely. But, speaking of both, Randy's role in the films and the fact that Part 3 is all about defining what it means to be a trilogy, I just wanted to revisit another thing that I mentioned in the second review for Scream 2, and that was, again, this the theme of the hero's journey, which you don't necessarily see too much of that in the first film, but in the second film they make it very intentional that this series is all about Sidney Prescott, not necessarily the killers. That's why the killers change in every film. But in the previous review, I mentioned I would go over a little bit more of the details, and I'll do that quickly. But essentially, the hero's journey is you have somebody that is a fairly regular person. They get a call to adventure. They pass into another realm, another world, something outside of their home, and they have things that protect them. They have talismans. They have weapons, and there are things that they go to oracles for advice, people that see things beyond what they are capable of seeing. And it's all, the whole point of the hero's journey is that you take somebody that is standard or generic, and then you see them become something much greater. And that is absolutely the case with this series, but we don't, oddly enough, it being a trilogy, Sydney's story, we really did need part 4, and we'll go more into that next week, but her story definitely does not end in this film, but we do see she has left home, which is another hallmark of the hero's journey. We see her using the Greek letters that Derek gave her in part 2 as almost like a talisman. Randy, he from beyond the grave, is giving advice, helping the survivors see things that they could not see for themselves. So in a way, he is like an oracle. He is like a prophet to some degree. Again, there's no supernatural elements in the Scream franchise, yet there are callbacks to these things.
I'm going to stop you there real quick. He's basically the Obi-Wan in episode 6.
Yeah, I was going to say Yoda, but yeah, Obi-Wan is another great idea. And again, Star Wars follows the hero's journey, and in the original trilogy, it's all about Luke and his path to becoming the warrior and hero that we eventually see throughout the films. So Sidney Prescott, to a smaller degree, is kind of like Luke Skywalker. We see her as just a normal student, a survivor, and then, yeah, she continues to progress. As I mentioned, she adapts, she learns, she overcomes, and she becomes stronger and stronger. In this film, in part 3, not only is she no longer just a survivor and adapting to tragedy, but she's also living in seclusion. She is adopted a new identity, but she still wants to help people. There's this call for, she feels a responsibility, an obligation to do something more with herself. And in part 4, when we get to that, we'll see that call that she has to do something more, it expands greatly. She does, something more. She becomes more than what she originally was.
Right, and honestly, going off your whole hero's journey thing, I believe Gail kind of has a journey that makes her even better than she was in the first film. I mean, first film, she's this really annoying, really cocky, news reporter. Second movie, she's still kind of a bitch, but then she learns more. She's put on the line, she sees what she's like through Debbie Salt, and now, in this movie, she gives up reporting, and she finally figures out she wants to get back with Dewey, she wants to help Sydney, and she just wants to put an end to this whole event.
That's really interesting you mentioned that, because if we want to continue using a Star Wars comparison, in a weird way, she's kind of like the Han Solo. She's cocky, she's, very much about, her business, and, yeah, she has her own character arc and growth as well. And we see in the original Star Wars trilogy, Han Solo starts off as this brash kind of rogue type. He's a scoundrel, kind of a criminal, and then he becomes a member. He has a journey of his own where he eventually becomes a member of the resistance. He learns to think outside of just his own needs, and same with Gail. Like, yes, she's a very selfish character, but there are times throughout Scream 1, 2, 3, and even 4 where even her drive for her career, eventually she learns to, I care about more things. Like, she cares about Dewey. She cares about eventually even Sydney and others as well.
And then again, there's also Dewey, who's basically, I guess you could say, the Princess Leia of the movie. He's basically a man on a mission. He wants to protect his, I guess you could say, metaphorical sister, in a way. I mean, he's been around Sydney protecting her for years, even after his sister dies, and he just wants to end these attacks. He wants to get on with his life.
I'm glad there was no slave Dewey, though, right? Aren't you glad about that?
God. God.
She looked great, but I'm really glad we didn't see David Arquette in a gold bikini.
Okay, let's get on to other facts before this decides to kill me.
Sorry, real quickly, I remember in the last film review we mentioned how the soundtrack was college rock and you really did not like it. Did you like the soundtrack to this film a little bit more, or they had some hard rock?
I'm about to get to that soon. Let me finish what I'm about to say, and then I'll give you my opinion soon. It was made the year I was born. As you all know, I was born 2000. Sadly, it was only 2 months before I was born in April. This was made in February. Scream 3 almost had no violence due to the Columbine High School massacre. So it almost completely was a comedy. And Wes Craven told the studio, either leave it the way it is, or there's no Scream, and we'll just have to name it something else, and make it a totally different movie. So Wes Craven was really sticking to his guns on making this movie happen, keeping his movie going. And this is the first Scream with only one killer.
Yes.
But we'll get to why soon. Williamson his original idea for the third movie was instead adapted for the following. I'm not sure if anyone knows about that movie, but if you do, please speak up in the comments. Here's what I was talking about. Here's my opinion. I love the soundtrack, especially What If by Creed and Wait and Bleed by Slipknot. I just feel if a movie has Slipknot, Godsmack, Creed, and oh my god, System of the Down, even though this was one of their worst songs, it's gonna be a great movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this was way better than the second movie. No offense to those guys that like rap and all that college rap that you hear in the second movie. It follows the rule of 3 perfectly. As I was saying to my parents a couple of days ago, it's basically like a comedy. Or like a joke. Punchline, middle, or the story. Wait. Pickup, story, punchline. It's also like a play. Speaking of plays, we'll get to that, but first act, second act, third act. First movie starts, second movie continues and gives the story, third movie ends it all. Which is why, if you guys didn't know, I also really love plays. But this played it out perfectly. The whole series.
Yeah. I agree. The story was solid. There was, some good entertaining moments. It definitely doesn't fail to entertain. And as I mentioned, it continues the thematic elements that were introduced in the second film very well. It's just not as impactful as the previous two. It falls a little flat for me.
Right, and if you do pay attention, it is explained that first movie makes the rules, second movie changes them, third movie, throw away all the rules. This is a new movie, end the rules. On to some trivia. Cameos from Carrie Fisher, who everyone, if you've seen this movie, you know her famous line, "No, I'm not her. I almost was her. I was almost Princess Leia, but they picked you-know-who."
The one that slept with George Lucas.
Yes, my God. And we also get Jay and Silent Bob, which, little trivia on Jay and Silent Bob, the last movie, we actually get the Ghostface killer in that movie. So it's basically like a back-to-back.
Yeah, I believe that while Scream 3 was being filmed, they were starting production on Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, because I do believe Wes Craven is in Jay and Silent Bob as a cameo. It's been a while since I saw it, but yeah.
Right, and if you didn't know, the cinematographer, he actually had a cameo in the last movie, and that's because he was serving popcorn. In this movie, he's eating popcorn. Right on set. And there's a special cameo of the of the tour guide. I can't remember her name, but she is very famous. And then we have those pictures you see of Maureen. They're actually of the real actor, while she was actually a model in her early days. David Arquette and Courtney Cox got married before filming began, so because they were going to be in this movie, they had to leave their honeymoon short. A poster from the Fall of Troy can be seen in Sydney's house by her door. Raymond Arquette has a cameo in the movie where he speaks to Gail, kind of flirts with her. I believe it was the guy that asked about if you need to slit each other's throat just to get where you are.
I'm not familiar with that.
And, here's a surprise fact. Angelina was supposed to be the second killer in another draft.
Oh, the woman that was played Sydney?
No, the woman that played Gail Weathers. She was actually supposed to be dating Ronan, and then she was supposed to come back in the end of the movie and hung on the wall as Gail Weathers is strapped to Sydney's bed, and Dewey was strapped to a chair. There were two different drafts that were supposed to happen.
You know, I think that would have helped the film out a little bit to have a second killer, because you know, you have to suspend your disbelief a little bit for these types of movies. There's a lot of, you know, crazy moments, but there's just too much that Roman could not have just done all by himself. And so, you know, the Scream films really do succeed by having more than one killer, and so it would have been better for them to have gone with a second killer as well.
I'm gonna have to
I don't know why they
correct
scrapped
that,
the idea.
because it's actually believed, even if we had two killers each movie, there were still some moments where it's believed that the two killers couldn't have done it. Like, those moments with Stu and Billy, yeah, were together in the house. So they believe that was Ronan in the movie. But that's just a fan theory.
Yeah. We kind of glossed over something. This film, you know, came out by Dimension or Miramax, right? Miramax. Which, guess
so.
what? You know, was, I believe, Harvey Weinstein, you know, that's where one of the production companies that he had his hands in. So it's interesting that there is a thread of sexual abuse in up and coming stars. You know, like they talked about, you know, Lance Hendrickson's producer character talked about, oh, you know, it was a different time back then, but the sad truth of it is like, no, that stuff still goes on in Hollywood, as we found out about with Harvey Weinstein and Louis C.K. and several other, you know, men and women that were involved with sexual abuse, taking advantage of folks that, you know, the whole casting couch controversy. So it's interesting that this film came out almost 20 years ago, and we were being told about it, and we just kind of didn't realize how true it was.
Right, even though it has been mentioned many times in many movies that the actors either had to sleep with the director, or it even happens in everyday life. Like, just to get a promotion, some girls have to suck off their managers.
Yeah.
But I feel we kind of went into a dark territory right now. Again, in the comments, please give us your opinions on this. Onto a lighter note, favorite phrase. When you're friends with Sydney, you die. Which it took me a while to find this in the movie, but because it was close to the end, but again, I watched the movie again a few hours ago, and I couldn't really find any other good phone conversations other than this, and finally, we learn Maureen's backstory. Her full backstory.
Yep. This was definitely as much about Maureen as it was about Sydney. So.
I mean, wasn't it always? I mean, first, we learn that she sleeps with Billy's father. Billy goes crazy, kills her because of it. Then we learn in the second movie, because she slept with his father, Billy dies, Billy's mother comes back, pissed off, because Billy's dead and Maureen slept with her husband. And then, third movie, we learn Sydney has a half-brother because she slept with Billy's father, or she slept with Conweary, and then she slept with Ronan's father and had Ronan, but then abandoned him. I mean, I think this is literally the ending of the Ronan, of the Maureen Prescott trilogy.
Oh, I thought you were about to say the Roman era. It's like, wow, we're going deep into history here. Now, it is interesting. This sounds a lot like another trilogy where the trilogy starts with the child of, there are events that precede the film, and so in a way, Maureen Prescott is kind of like Anakin Skywalker. Like, a whole bunch of events happened with Maureen that we didn't see firsthand, and so when the story begins in Scream 1, it is, we're jumping into kind of almost the middle of the story in some ways, a lot like how in Star Wars we're starting with Episode 4 instead of Episode 1.
Right. Wow. I'm actually surprised we're almost done with this movie.
I'm actually kind of happy about that because I'm ready to move on. I'm surprised I didn't like it as much as I had remembered.
Until Scream Season 3 comes out.
Well, one can hope.
Which, we can only hope it's as good as the Season 1, which it's supposed to be a reboot.
Yeah, with a new cast, new location. I have hope for it. If we ever get to, if it ever reaches the light of day, I'm all for more Scream content. So, but yeah, I gotta say that Scream 3 is a low point in the Scream franchise for me.
Same. I'd say it deserves at least 7.5. We don't want to put it too low because we've still got Scream 4, and also at least this had some great cameos in it.
Yeah, like I said, it was an entertaining film. It had good story elements. It was a great way to kind of conclude certain story elements. It just was lacking a few things. It fell a little flat. So I think 7.5 is good.
But don't these movies usually miss a little bit? Like, I mean, again, the kills, look at them all. They're basically lacking a lot.
Well, okay. I mean, this film, though, it's a lot more noticeable. It's like one or two stabs a person's down. There's really no big build-up to the kills except for one or two of the kills, like the house explosion and the whole introduction with Cotton Weary. Whereas in the first two films, there is an amount of tension leading up to the kills. There is some brutality. There is some savagery to it. Even though these films aren't known for being gory, we still get the impression that the killer is ruthless. And this, it's almost a little too lighthearted, unfortunately, so.
Right, and actually I noticed something that we did forget to mention. And I want to say this before we even end this video. If anyone watches the beginning of the movie, you gotta remember Khan's 100% caught in next episode, the story on road rage, which, what did Khan go through as he was going to save Kristen? Road rage.
Absolutely.
And originally I thought it was actually a news report of someone causing road rage, and then I hear, oh, check back next time on 100% Cotton.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has been the Slasher Club's review on Scream 3. The sad final chapter, but thank God we've got Scream 4 next week. Don't forget to comment. Thank you to all our 110 subscribers. Thank you for all 50 to 60 that watched our videos last week. I'm getting ahead of myself, and I'm just so excited we're actually getting views and getting comments and getting... we can't do this without you guys. You are the main part of this channel.
Yeah.
See you again, Scream 4 next week. We're almost done with this series. Unless they decide to make Scream Season 3 come out pretty soon. Can't wait to show you guys the mask for Scream, the TV series. And any final words, Cameron?
I was going to say that pop culture is the politics of the 21st century, but that's not the best way to end the episode. So, I don't got any final words.
Okay, and me and Mini Scream just gotta say, always smell the gas. You might just get some mercy.
Woohoo!
Okay, good night, everybody.